Gary, unmuted.
I'm just waiting.
I just
for Mr. Richards.
texted him that we were back in.
I'm on.
Oh, he's on.
I hear you.
I was just waiting for this. I have parallel.
Yes.
Are Robin versus and Angela Rachel?
That's what I was thinking right now.
There's a couple of people on, right? Okay, all right, thanks.
Get a new binder every year. I still have I put mine in my back of my car. I put last year's budget in the back of my car like a
It's
month
still
ago.
there?
I found, no, just about a month ago, I had it in my
You found
office. So I put it in there. I said, I think I might need this at some point in the next month.
Different cover, that's it.
It is a different cover, yes. So I'll be able to tell them apart.
Right. We're going to declare the board in open session at 7:06 p.m. Informational sharing, superintendent's report.
Well, I will keep this brief because Jake shared some of the information about Mr. S. This is like the year of Mr. S. Because he is receiving that additional recognition. He's been a Grammy Summer finalist. Now he's Connecticut Teacher of the Year, which is awesome. As well as his award-winning band. He has a string quartet that is going around to local venues. I know they are playing at the Warner, the Beatles versus the Stones showdown, April 23rd. So I'll get that information out to you. And then May 21st, they're playing with the Waterbury Symphony. So we'll honor those students and Mr. S at the next board meeting. Also, another amazingly talented teacher, our own drama teacher, coordinator extraordinaire, Ronnie Gelomino, got rave reviews as a leading actress. Annie Wilkes in the play Misery, when she was performing at the Nancy Marie Studio Theater at the Warner. So that was very exciting. I can't quite
See
picture
her doing that.
I
I can't,
know.
I think just as an actress, I could see her
Yes,
really
her-
playing it up,
yes,
right?
but you
Not
really-
her personality,
yeah,
but
no,
no,
not
as an actress, I could see that.
She's so sweet.
She is.
And then just a quick yonder update. TMS, the cell phone infractions are still being addressed as always. Only 2 students have had 4 infractions since September. There have been some repeat offenders at the high school as well. Students who have had 4 or more infractions have cell phone contracts, and at the beginning and ending of each day, they must show that they are locking and unlocking their phones using their cell phone pouch. I know we're going to discuss the issue anyway during policy. That's coming up in the next 2 weeks, so we won't spend too much time seeing as we have a lot of items on the agenda. THS admins are also gathering input from the teachers regarding cell phones and yonder pouches in response to the board's concerns. I took this very seriously, and the administration will be able to share this at the policy meeting. U.S. History Day, I know many of you have heard me speak about U.S. History Day. It's one of my favorite events. It is this Saturday, very exciting. We do have students who are doing exhibits and websites and documentaries and performances. I've judged several years. This year we're back at Torrington High School, and we're able to do the judging in person. Hopefully the weather will cooperate. We have junior and senior categories that do group and individual projects, and they work in these for a very long time, on their own time. So it's very exciting.
Can I just ask if it is
Sure.
canceled, how would people be notified? Go on the website.
It will go on the website, it will go out to everyone who's a student participant, everyone who's a judge, everyone who's interested. I'll certainly send it out to the board to let them know. We should know soon. They were talking about maybe doing like a 2-hour delay. They weren't sure if that would help, because it's, usually we're here by 7:30 and it doesn't end till 2, so we really have to do the days because is it getting worse? and worse?
Yeah.
Okay. So we may end up being virtual again. So we'll keep you posted. on that. And then you're gonna hear enough from me tonight.
Yes, thank you. Any questions on the superintendent's report? Thank you. Office of Teaching and Learning update.
Hi, everyone. So I'm gonna go really quick too, because the length of this agenda is a little scary. I passed out earlier and I'm laughing at myself. It's a good thing I can do that. This timeline, and you don't even know what I'm referring to, it just says timeline. So this is a little teaser. As you know, the OTL, along with about 20-ish folks from around the district, teachers, coaches, interventionists, administrators, have been meeting routinely, and that's really what this timeline lays out for you, just so you can see the labor that's gone into looking at the various reading programs that we have been exploring, because when we get to the end of this month, we're hoping to be able to adopt one of them. So I have to give a big shout out to Andrew Deacon. He is an amazing colleague, but I never realized until now how organized he is too. So he coordinated this whole thing. You're going to hear a lot more about this on the 15th. We want to bring it to school improvement. We have a presentation plan for SIC. We want to take you through the process that we've taken everybody else through, explain what we've done, and make a recommendation to the SIC committee for the program, because we have kind of landed on one. We have vetted 8 programs. So we've been very thorough, and I'm just really excited that we're almost there, and it's been years in the making. So, and I think most of you have heard me just, beat it to death, honestly, but we're almost there. So the other thing I just wanted to share with you, which I passed out, was some highlights from our recent professional day on February 21st. You may recall back in November, we started working with our staff K-12 on student discourse, of how to talk, how to really shift what happens in our classrooms from a traditional sort of sage on the stage model, where the teacher's up in the front of the room doing most of the talking, and the teachers are kind of like receiving instead of actually being engaged. So getting away from that stand and deliver, and really making the students more accountable for their own learning. So we started that in November. We continued it in February. It's been really well received by the staff, and that's what you have in front of you. This is a survey that we asked them to complete the day of the PD that afternoon, to just give us a sense of, how much of what we presented to you today, how much of what we took you through today do you feel is immediately applicable in your classroom? So basically, that's the gist of this. So what you're seeing is the agrees and the strongly agrees. So we're very excited about where we've been and where we're going. The next steps for Torrington is to just enhance what we've done and really focus on high quality instruction using the strategies that we've really been honing with our teachers to really look at instruction in a broader sense. So it's all good stuff. I don't know if there's any questions about it. But questions?
Thank you. Special education update.
Hey, hi guys. So I have my update in the packet, and you'll notice under our numbers, this is probably the most pink I have had on a chart, like ever. And what we've really seen is kind of an increase lately in students that have come into district, either because they have moved or they have, for any number of reasons, kind of been placed in our district. So we have had to pick up some IEPs of students, for example, that were already outplaced. And we have to implement that when they move in. So it was a little bit off. Typically, we don't look like this. You'll see that our in-district number is the same as it was in January. So that, and this goes back to February 1st, even though today's March 1st, that'll be our next report because this was supposed to be a week or so ago. So our in-district numbers are the same, relatively speaking, and our transition academy is the same. But like I said, we have picked up some students who have moved in that either were already attending the magnet and then became ours, or they were already outplaced and then they became ours. So that's what you're looking at there. As far as, I think Fiona had asked last time for some information on materials that were purchased for the tag. So I included those. Those were just some research-based materials that I provided to them to offer them some other ideas, because I know they're providing STEM-like activities, but I thought it'd be helpful to have some other materials to help them. They are going to be assessed, all of the third graders are going to be assessed between March 7th and the 17th. Andrew sent the letters home to parents to tell them that that would be occurring. Once those results are in, then we look at to make sure they made the initial cut, and then those names go to the principals so that they can look at the remaining criteria for identification purposes. And, we're still talking about what it might look like next year, because we kind of brought this in as a pilot, where we want to take it as far as we want to go with it. We'll be up for discussion with you as far as expanding onto other grade levels, or like I said last time, possibly the talented part, the artistic part, and where we want to go with it. Again, knowing that as a district, we don't have to do this, but you chose to begin. So however we want to take it moving forward, I'll help to get it moving, so. Okay.
So I'm just gonna say, and this is not any disrespect to anyone, because this is a pilot program, but the feedback I've gotten from the parents involved in this program is that they went through a lot of testing and different measures to get in. And I think they were expecting a lot more than what they've received this year.
Yeah.
So I would like to kind of determine what exactly we are doing and what we're providing, because I think if we are going to make them go through all of that,
Sure.
there is an expectation on the other end that this would be, I think, a little bit more rigorous.
And we spoke about that as central office, and, I had said that, one of the things that you could do is set it up as a true, gifted experience, maybe one in the town. So for example, one for the 4-5 level. And maybe that is once a week, but it's on Friday for a whole afternoon or something, and we bus children over. If you're gonna do that though, then we have to talk about who's going to be staffing that. So that's why, just kind of putting it out there, however we want to proceed with it. There are a lot of different districts that do it a lot of different ways, and we can certainly talk about different ways it could be done. Right now, we have 7 students that have met the criteria. We'll see how many more we are able to add when we pick up third graders. And then depending whether or not you want to push into, the middle school at all for the following year. But again, we just have to figure out what that's going to mean for staffing.
So did we staff for a tag teacher last year when we talked about piloting it? We went into it with the library media specialist doing it.
I think the thought originally was to provide them with some extra STEM experiences, projects and things like that. So it was minimal, absolutely. But if it's something that you guys want to grow, we can certainly look to grow it.
a lot of people remembering, they'd say what we used to have, but when they used to go over to Talent Mountain, it was really amazing. So more to come, obviously, with budgetary implications to that, but thank you.
Just let me know what you need on my end.
Any other questions? HR update.
So you have the report. We still have the 2 special ed vacancies that are currently there. And I know Laura's team is interviewing, and I think you'll see some movement on that next month. So optimistic about that. Our classified vacancies continue to be a challenge. I can say that of the 9 special ed positions that are on here, we have filled 2 of them since I submitted this report on Friday. So they actually came in for orientation today, and one of them starting tomorrow. So, so I think we are gradually moving along on it. So the sub rates continue to be a challenge. Absences continue to be high. So we're continuing to try to move the needle on that. As far as updates, to address the substitute, I presented the new vendor for the board's consideration at the budget subcommittee meeting, and I think the representatives from that vendor came and spoke with you all. So they are, ready to answer your questions if you have any, and then I think we're going to talk about that again at the next budget subcommittee meeting, and we'll go from there. We're planning for programs to support pathways for certification for our non-certified staff, and I've actually had some nice conversations with 3 of our current employees, 2 paras, 1 para, 1 tutor, and a substitute, who are all very much interested in what kinds of pathways we can offer for those kinds of opportunities. We have registered for job fairs for March and April. I'll actually be at the University of Hartford tomorrow with all my swag that's packed in my car right now, so ready to go. We are also signed up for the Northwest Chamber of Commerce job fair on March 22nd at City Hall. So that will be really to recruit our non-certified staff, paras, CAP workers, substitutes, any of those positions that we can look to fill. And we'll be looking to start to post our anticipated vacancies for 23-24 sometime by the end of the month, subject to funding, so that we can start to really be able to recruit those shortage areas at the job fairs. We did hold our HR site visits for February, with the exception of the high school, which was scheduled for yesterday. So that's been rescheduled for Monday. So Dakina will be out at the high school on Monday. They continue to be very well received. We're both of us seeing regular visits from everybody when we're there. They really appreciate us coming to the sites versus them having to come to Midgeon to ask us questions. So they've really been appreciative of that. Right now, retirement seems to be the topic. Even if somebody's not retiring this year, they're coming down and asking us questions about, planning for that. So I think that's been the pretty consistent topic. Wellness, we're continuing to have our wellness events. We did a dig into dark chocolate on February 7th. I went, and people who attended, I think, like the taste testing, and they got some cool information. We did have the first financial well-being webinar. And the feedback was very positive. So we have the second one coming up. Eating for Wellness, the hybrid cooking seminar is rescheduled for March 6th. So that'll be happening next week. And we have our virtual wellness fair in March. And we're going to be doing our 6-week yoga program, our 4th time doing that, and our annual walking challenge. And then something else kind of new, we, for the PD in February, we trained all of our custodians in the online evaluation system, and we're moving their evaluation into the system. And I actually thought it went very well. John and his team, they were so great. We had it up on the smart board at Midgeon. We showed them all how to do it. We got them all logged in. Rachel's team was there to help support. So everybody got logged in, and I've actually gotten a few phone calls from the custodians since then, asking about how do they do their online training and how do they, they seem excited about it. So I was very pleased at how that went. And then on the second page, you continue to have the data about our fill rates of Torrington employees versus Kelly Services employees, and our overall turnover, which is actually improved from this time last year. So when I started tracking it the first time, so we're actually, while the paraprofessional number and the CAP number is high, the other numbers are definitely lower than where we were this time last year.
On the second page of this, Kim, just for clarification, the first box, the first grid, the year-to-date 22-23 total requests
Mhm.
for teachers and paras. Does that mean there's been 4,700 requests for substitutes
Mhm.
since September?
Since September 1st.
4,700.
The 3137 plus the 1598.
Oh,
That's the total number of requests. So keep in mind, that's not all. That could be a professional day, a personal day, a sick day, workers' comp. There could be a whole host of things that go into that number. You know, it's not just about absentees.
So
But yes,
maternity leaves and all of that.
everything gets wrapped into that number to request for a substitute.
Still a lot.
Yeah, and it is an
Regardless of what
increase.
It is, it's a
It is
lot.
definitely an increase from what we had last year, because that's part of the data that we have our bi-weekly meetings with our Kelly Services rep. And, you know, they're repeatedly bringing that up to us, that while our fill rates are still at 40%, we are, you know, we have like 1,000 more requests than what we had at this time last year.
Yeah.
So they're maintaining the 40%, but they're filling 1,000 more jobs. So
I do think, I mean, at least for January, you had that norovirus going around, and there was a lot of things that people were just getting the 24-hour bug. It was lasting for days, and the unfortunate consequence of working with children, I think you're more exposed to a lot more stuff.
Does that only include when somebody calls out for like the whole day? Does it?
No, it
include
would
part of
include
the
partial day as
If
well.
someone had to leave at noon to go to
Yeah.
an doctor's appointment, that's
yeah,
different.
if it's less than a half a day, we don't usually ask for a sub, because with the Kelly Services, we have to pay. If it's, you know, so if they ask for a sub for an hour and the sub comes in, we have to pay for at least a half a day. So we usually tell principals, work with your building sub, work within your building for an hour, but for half day or full day, those are what the jobs are counted.
Superintendent's proposed budget 23-24.
Okay, the highly anticipated budget binder is in front of you.
Can I just make one comment? So the board is only receiving this tonight. We're not discussing it. It'll be discussed at the budget subcommittee.
We'll give you right.
Not tonight, no.
Oh, did you get it? Okay.
Questions. Yeah. So if you have questions while reviewing it, send it to the chair. Thank you.
Okay, so before we go through the PowerPoint, I just want to go through the binders, so you know what you're looking at. So you have a table of contents, you just have a letter that kind of summarizes the highlights. You have to learn. Then you have the PowerPoint piece of things. The 6-pager is just kind of a quick and easy way to look at what's going on in those line items. You see Scott has presented a lot of that during the monthly financials. Now you're looking at it for a whole entire year. The next section is just categories, budget summary by account, and then the next one is by department. So when you get past the PowerPoints, you get to the 6-page. And then you have these two, which is one is the overall accounts, like salaries and benefits and things like that. And then the next one is by school site, so you can kind of see that. So a lot of this is just different ways of looking at the information and helping you understand it or absorb it, because it's a lot. Then you have the school narratives, which focus in on academics as well as the social and emotional issues, as well as basic supplies, needs, general maintenance and things at each site. So you see that in each of the sites. till you get toward the back, and then you start to see, after you get past Torrington, you see student services in this section as well. And summary of theirs, finance and operations, district maintenance, human resources, transportation, those are all in the district-wide budget. Okay, so this whole section is kind of a summary of all of those different sections and the athletics. And all of those pages show you the difference between what we have done since 2020. Then you see 2021, 2022, 2023, and then what we propose. So all of those really give you longitudinal information year over year of the whole entire budget. So that's really what that section is about. Then you just have the budget codes. If there's any confusion on budget codes, such as the 111s or certified salaries, and then it works all the way down to other professional services. You give you some samples of each one of those things. Don't worry if you don't know it, have it memorized. It's all, it's like, oh my God, I haven't seen this in a while. We'll remind to refresh or what have you. For those of you who like detail, I just want to commend Scott on his first foray into New World. He did a great job, and he's added a lot more detail, which I think will be helpful when we're looking at this, because you can actually see the FTEs that are in the general budget, and I think it will make more sense as we're looking through. So instead of just being 58 or 80 pages, it's actually a whopping 142. So hopefully that'll help answer questions. Then we go into capital plan. And this you saw in December. This is the same capital plan that we presented to the city, including capital tech. That's the proposal, and that can be discussed as well. Usually we start with general budget and then we work into capital. Comments or concerns. The next section is revenue. And these are grants, this is other funding that comes to the district. And behind all of that information on revenue are the grant descriptions of what you see in the monetary value. And then we did do some FAQs, some frequently asked questions. And then we also gave you a section for updates. After I do the PowerPoint, I'll also pass out grant information. Folks are asking for that. Usually this whole presentation and this time is really focused in on general budget. Does the binder make sense? For some of you, you know this well. So I won't spend too much time on that. I'm going to shift over to PowerPoint. Thank you, John, for presenting it up there, but you can also follow along in your binders. So second page is Board of Ed and Central Office. And then we always start with our mission and vision, just to remind ourselves why we're here, what we're doing, because that's our driving force. Torrington Public Schools will ensure every student is able to graduate with skills and attributes that empower them to enter the college or career path of their choosing. And then our mission, through engaging instruction that is relevant, rigorous, and personalized to student needs, Torrington Public Schools will successfully prepare all students to be productive citizens and critical capable of adapting and thriving in a dynamic global environment. So that is really the visionary part of what guides this budget. We're going to go ahead and talk about the process because it is quite lengthy. So it really starts at the site with leadership teams and with the administrators. So the administrators work with their leadership teams to see what is needed at the sites in specific departments. And then after that, really starts in November, December, we start having meetings with principals being the central office administration, present their budget, their rationale, their any type of staffing they may need. And we really think about enrollments, master schedule, student needs, courses that are going to be offered, increased graduation requirements. And also the growth that we've seen in the next generation accountability. Sue and her OTL team just presented things last month and the month before our next generation numbers and the successes that we've had, and as well as the areas of growth that still need to occur. So that's why we make those determinations in terms of budgetary items. Go ahead to the next one, Josh. So this kind of gives you an overview in terms of what the increases are and what the areas are. We are coming in at a 4.78 increase from last year, predominantly because, as always, contractual increases, and we'll go over those in just a minute. But this kind of gives you an overview, just remembering that outside of the salaries and benefits, purchased professional services, sped, legal, substitutes, so all things that help us function, purchase property services or things like landscaping, snow plowing, copier services, those kinds of things. And then other purchase services are things like transportation, liability insurance, etc. And then I think the other ones are pretty self-explanatory, and if they're not, they'll get clearer as we go on. So then we have the superintendent's proposed budget. These are the percentages of the budget as a whole, and that breakdown, and you can see even by color, even visually, it jumps out at you. The salary and the employee benefits are such a significant portion of the budget. And then if you flip over to the next page, you see our contractual obligations and the actual percentages broken down for you there. So salary and benefits, 71%, tuition, 13.3%, transportation, energy, all of those add up to the 93.9. So you're really talking about 94% of our budget that goes to those contractual obligations that come right off the top of the budget. And then our non-contractual being 6%, which kind of rounds that out. And so when we're looking at, you can go ahead to the next one, Josh. Thank you. Non-contractual necessities, you're looking at maintenance of our buildings, general repair, general basic necessities, health insurance, as you all know, I'm sure in your own lives, that health insurance costs have gone up. They have also for the district, technology and software licenses. There's a big push in terms of cyber protection, tech safeguards for our students. All their students have one on the devices now. So there's just a lot that we have to do there to make sure that we keep our students safe. Supplies, always a focus and always an increase in various areas on consumables, books, periodicals across the board. Even in terms of just reminding things that we have, we're trying to maintain because we like those resources. Go ahead to the next one, Josh. So general budget district-wide, things that we're really focusing on in this budget, academic interventions. We still have interventionists in there. Physical health, you'll see a proposal in terms of one of the additions that I have for to embrace and encourage our physical health of our students. Mental health, behavioral supports are also wrapped into general budget. Adequate staffing to meet graduation requirements, even though you may say, oh, that happened a while ago. It's taken a gradual, progressive time to meet up with enough staff to make sure that we have met those graduation requirements. And we didn't want to do it all at once because we had time. This year's graduating seniors are the ones who really have been able to avail themselves of enough teachers, but we have to make sure that all of our students are ready and prepared. So we're still adding teachers to meet those. Instead of we had 22, now it's been 25 for the last 3 years in terms of graduation credits and requirements. Special education and English language instruction support, and I really appreciate that the board has supported this initiative for the last few years, especially our special ed supervisors and our RBTs, BCBAs, as well as all of the additions we had last year for EL. I think we're having significant gains in terms of those areas. Maintaining a safe and welcoming environment. We have seen in the general budget as well as in grants, the security associates, I think that has made a difference. Repairs and maintenance, having adequate staff. I know that John is very grateful. We all are very grateful that we have custodial staff that again was board supported last year. And key supports in programs and technology support, making sure that we have that adequate IT support as well as support in alternative ed programs that we're really still growing, trying to meet the needs of our students in a post-pandemic world. So we still have some impacts from that disruptive learning as well. So next slide, Josh. So general budget staff additions, these are positions that I am requesting this year, and this was in direct response to what the administrators were asking for and felt they really needed for their sites. A Spanish teacher at the high school, once again, that's to help with graduation requirements, make sure we have enough world language offerings. Free PE teachers at the K-5 level, I know that you've heard me say a number of times. When we started in, I think it was 2019-20, pre-COVID, right? The board had really identified, it might even have been like 18-19. The board was really concerned and staff were really concerned that students didn't have the capability, the technology capability, didn't have keyboard skills. And so really felt that that was impacting our test scores in terms of SPOT. So we really said, okay, you know, we've got to find some wiggle room. We didn't have as much focus on PE. We actually cut some PE teachers because we said we need more time. And there's only so much time in a day to really focus in on tech. Lo and behold, we have COVID and we end up with one-on-one devices. And now students have more than enough time on computers. We want them to actually shift back to physical engagement and movement and sports. And we find that that's much healthier for our children, right? To be actively engaged mentally and physically. And it helps their cognition as well. A social worker at the high school to help with that alternative program, but also in order to meet the needs of our students, definitely the growing needs we've heard at SIC meetings as well as regular board meetings about the needs that our students have, increased needs. And we've seen it in the news media, statewide, nationally, that students just have more mental health issues than ever before. Alternate ed teacher at the middle school, really to round out and support that program. Who really was in its infancy, and we're really trying to grow it so that it's consistent and there's consistent staff for those students. School security associate at TMS to round out their teams, really feeling like that would be of benefit to them. And then the IT of technology and innovation director. Rachel, who I know is on virtually and could not be here this evening, she's been doing everything. She prior to Rachel taking on the interim IT director position, we had an IT manager and we had an IT technology director. And really, she's been trying to do both of that. And yes, Allie's been able to help us with some hours, but it's really, really been a tough year, especially since we started our new implementation of Mac at the high school. I am putting that back in the budget and hoping to post that position because it is truly necessary, especially in this day and age and where we're at with tech and the district and just one-on-one devices. It's just our new reality. So if we go to the next slide, there are some savings as well. I know they're minimal, but I know that everyone looked at their budget and really tried to find savings. Laura met with her team and was able to really look at her SPED and enrollment numbers and to have 2.8 positions with no backfill. And it would be positions that really where the enrollment is down in certain areas. And you can look in my letter to see the specific schools that are targeted for that. But really feeling like we still be able to offer all the services that the students need. So it's not a deficit. It's just a savings. It's great. And then the retiree savings, we do have 11 folks retiring and we estimated at a savings of 33,000. We can't say that that's an exact science, that's an estimate. So this is an estimated savings we have in the budget. So next slide, please, Josh. So we also are very, very fortunate because we do have grant funding community partnerships that offer us a variety of different services. We have great partnerships with our community partners, but we also have entitlements, which are Title I, Title II, Title IV, Title III, bilingual. Those are all grant funded, and those are federal funds. So if those go under, we're all in a heap of trouble nationwide. So those are pretty much guaranteed. Then we also have alliance funding that we receive because we are a designated alliance district. And so those funds are likely to go up next year. Right now in the budget, the increase is slated for approximately a 1.2 increase, but we'll have to see what ends up happening. The governor's budget is not. So what is that fund? So it funds some of the things that you saw in GB. There are more positions or staffing that are also out of the grants funds. Academic intervention and coaching, coaching and intervention, which make huge differences in our students and their progress. Translators and bilingual family liaisons, which is wonderful. We have translators at every site, and we have bilingual family liaisons who have made a huge difference, particularly during our LEAP and our early intervention for students, our youngest learners coming into our school system. Special education supervisors, which we very much appreciate, and that has had a huge impact on our special education numbers and just our growing knowledge about special ed. Mental health and behavioral supports, which are truly essential. Alternate programming, which we're able to offer at the secondary level. The reading program, K-5. And school security associates, which I talked about before, and instructional supplies. Just in terms of the other grant funding, which I forgot about, we did have ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3 funding during COVID, right? So ESSER 1 was gone, I don't know, like 2 years ago. ESSER 2 in September of 23. And then we have ARP ESSER 3, which ends in September 2024. There are no staffing positions in that budget. We did not want to hit a fiscal cliff and say, oops, oh, we have all these people there, and now we've got to take them out and they lose their job, or we lose their services, or now what do we do? We have programming in there, we have the reading program in those funds, and so we'll play it by ear. We don't know how much, as Sue had mentioned, you know, we just submitted, well, she'll talk more about the reading program, but we're gonna get a quote. We don't know how much it's gonna be, so we'll keep you posted on what that is. But that's earmarked for that bucket, okay? No people there. Just shifting to accomplishments on the next page. Next generation accountability, okay, OTL went over that wonderful report, but just to give you an idea over the last 5 years where we've really grown, Torrington High School was a focused area school in 2017-18, which was 6 years ago, and they were a category 4. That's actually how we became an alliance district. High school had really been bereft and stripped of a lot of things over the years. So it took them a while to get to a category 3, which is really wonderful. So we've grown and they've made progress. But in addition, during that 5-year time, we also have had schools of distinction, which is really wonderful, recognized in areas of growth. And I know that Andrew Deacon had talked about this when he was doing a presentation of his data, or the data for the elementary schools. So Southwest, in 2022 was recognized for their growth with high needs students. Torrington and Forbes were already category 2 schools. So we really want to stay in that category 2, which is really that distinguished school in terms of growth. And that's being acknowledged by the state. So that's exceptional and it's exciting. So we talked a little bit about the growth rate in ELA. and the significance of that professional development. You've heard Sue talk a number of times about the targeted focus, professional development, the hands-on that I think has made a huge difference, and a focus in on student engagement. At the last PD, it was great to hear folks really engaging and having insight about their practices. The explicit and intentional teaching of foundational skills, getting back to those foundational pieces, similar to what you had shared as a podcast, right? That whole piece of getting back to that, the phonics and coding and those essentials that are so important. Curriculum revision, you talked about for years. Expanded summer programming. We still will need to do this, and that's again part of the programming that would be in that ARPA as sort of 3 COVID funding, where we really are trying to address those skill deficits. The ongoing development of pathways, and you've heard OTL and the high school talk about their wonderful programs that they're offering. Very, very exciting. I would love to take some of these classes myself. You have the list there, and I'm sure you remember what and have heard during our meetings. Technology additions, we are one-on-one computers. So we do have Mac at the high school, and I think that that's going well. I think it was bumpy to start, but really we've made great strides. Special education on the next page continues to be below the state average, so kudos to Laura and her team and the teams at the site all working together. LEAP really has reduced that chronic absenteeism by 10%, but I think even more importantly, we're having those meaningful conversations with family members, with parents who maybe were disenfranchised, who maybe didn't have a good school experience. And now they're having those connections. At the next board meeting, we'll be able to show you something that is actually being shown throughout the state about our LEAP program. And so it's really, really exciting. And you actually get to see someone in a home visit setting, and it's really very moving. But in addition to that, I think that the state has really appreciated in other districts that we've had other satellite registration support locations for our students. That really started right after COVID in the teen center, but Kids Play has been in existence during that whole entire time. So for our youngest learners at Kids Play and for our older learners at the teen center. We were recognized at the state level for a 68% increase at the for high school student participation in upper level classes, AP and UConn classes. So it's very exciting and gets our students ready to go on to college and embrace some of that cost. So that's very exciting, I'm sure, for parents as well as students. The community partners that really offer our after school and our summer programs, as well as our mental health supports. We have a number of different folks who offer after school programs like CAL and CAPTA and summer programs, and which really do help support our students, and all of the wonderful awards that we've received in music, drama, athletics, our winning sports teams, unified sports as well, which really builds character as well as leadership and athletic skills. And our portrait of graduate process is ongoing, as Sue and Fiona know. So, and you'll be getting a report soon. Just a reminder of our wonderful college acceptances and the range of colleges that our students have been accepted to, notably Harvard and Yale, but also just wonderful schools across the board. And sometimes, you know, our students really excel at community college and then they go on to four-year schools, or they go on with an associate's degree and do some really amazing things in that realm as well. So now just a reflection on who we are and just an update. I know and give you the yearly update because it continually changes. So we go to the next slide. Thank you. So in the blue, you've got the 48% white Caucasian, 39% Hispanic or Latino. That's our fastest growing population, which is why we brought that increase to last year in terms of making sure that we were addressing our needs there. But many of our other multiracial and Black or African-American populations have also increased over the last year. So next slide is really about our district-wide free and reduced lunch or slash meals program. So you may say, why do we still do this? Because all our students are free. So that makes no sense. I just want to give you what the state gives us. So that chart on the right are the percentages that the state gives us. It has served our students very well to make sure that we do have meals for every single family for breakfast and for lunches. And then we do have a backpack food program, which Cal does help us coordinate and distribute to our families. So it's just a huge piece for our kids and really ensures that they don't have to lose security. The next slide is representing our English language learners, and you can see where our English language learner population of the last 10 years has doubled, almost, pretty close. But really, as we go through the next 2 years, we've been told that probably will reach not only 13%, very quickly moving on to 20%, possibly 25%. So I think that's the population that's going to grow the fastest. And so we will have needs there, but we're going to take it 1 year at a time. And then just to give you an idea of the English language learners, you can use the next slide as a reference. When we're talking about positions and needs, you'll be able to reference this back in terms of how many students we have at those levels. Special education is staying just about the same. I think we may be about 3 to 5 students, keeps changing, right? Laura gives you those updates, so thank you, Laura. Up and down, we do try and give you the numbers from October 1 in all of these packets, because otherwise it would be moving target all the time. So unless you ask for an update on whatever it is, that's what you're seeing in terms of reference. And we can certainly get you the updates, just we didn't want to be random. So as we go through the next few slides, those of you who are familiar with this PowerPoint know these packets. Just a reference, magnet school tuition, school choice, it's just the number of students, regular ed and special ed. And when you look at our regular ed students for magnet schools, they have gone down, which makes me happy. I really love to see our students staying in their neighborhood schools and really feeling, I think, and that's why they're coming back or staying with us, that we are starting to offer what they are interested in or what they'd like to take or meeting their needs for their future. Magnet School Special Education Services, you'll see the budget and the actual costs. So it's always difficult with special ed. So, you know, I know Laura works really hard with her team trying to figure out, okay, what should those numbers be? We talked again this last weekend to just review one more time to see what those numbers would be. And we'll keep talking about where we're at and what those needs are. BOAG, Special Education Services, you see it's a little bit increased from what we've had. But if you look at the actuals, I think that increase is warranted. The BOAG student tuition for just school choice, where you see the regular ed and the special ed, those have stayed pretty consistent. And those are servicing Wamogo and Region 7 predominantly. We do, yeah, and that would be it. And then special education outplacement trends. Once again, very, very difficult to make the decision in terms of what that amount would be. We tried to look at the year-over-year trends. Certainly we can discuss that more as we go through either in the forums or the budget subcommittee. So the school enrollment projections, K-3, and I know we had a lot of discussion about this even throughout this last year. So when we were meeting, even as recently as yesterday, we were talking I was talking with Kelly, and she was saying she really can't find another spot for another class. So I just want to give you that frame of reference when we're looking at those sections. And then over Wetmore, there might be wiggle room, but it will only be for one. So just to give you that frame of reference. And then for the 4-5, these numbers are running pretty similarly to what we have in years past. This is actually down from what we had done. Really probably 5 years ago, we were running closer to the 25 rather than to the 20. But that's 19, 20, 21 for 4-5. And you're probably seeing very similar to that at the high school. Middle school runs much more at the 23 and 25 in some classes. And you can go ahead, Josh. So that you can just see the secondary projections. And you really see middle school going down a little bit. So we have that little bit of dip in 4-5, and now they're inheriting those students. And then the high school is going up. Students are staying. They're excited. A new high school is coming. They want to be a part of it. All those good things that we had hoped, right? So enrollment is going up, and we're almost done. Budget summary. So this just gives you the numbers in a nutshell. So the total dollar difference is that 3.7, and the percentage increase is the 4.78. And then just a reminder for folks, these are the tentative budget timelines, which as we go through, then say, yes, absolutely, no, we don't need it. I know that by March 29th, we won't be done. So thank you.
Have questions, send them to the budget chair. The financial.
Thank you. I'm just looking at the cover sheet here. We did go into this in detail. And the nothing to point out, nothing jumps out at us. I've been reviewing first team maintenance with John, so we're trying to stay ahead of everything. So there's really nothing to call out. Other than on the other purchase services, like I'm pretty sure I explained at the budget committee meeting we had, that went up a little bit for another expulsion and for some pre-K special education transportation, and some homeless transportation numbers that we encumbered for what we think are going to be higher than we had budgeted last year. So unless anybody has any direct questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Thank you. I think the way you're presenting it at the budget meeting is very clear and concise, so I appreciate your work on that.
Thank you.
Policy number 6030, individuals with disabilities. IDEA.
Okay, Kim and I can just speak to this. This is, or Laura even can speak to this. This is something that we've been doing, but we didn't have a policy in our catalog to frame it or ground it. And this is something that Shipman recommends that we have. So we just looked at theirs and recommendations that we added to what we adopted and added to our policy. Any questions?
Equitable identification of gifted and talented students.
Pretty much the same thing, right? So we are currently working, as you all know, we are identifying as we're legally required to do. We are working to develop a program, but we don't have a policy on the books to frame it like that. So it's essentially the same thing. Just kind of to keep us legal. Okay, any questions on that?
I just have a question, actually. Somebody asked me this today, and I didn't know the answer, so I would ask it. What
it says the Board of Education will use equitable methods to identify students, but then it doesn't define equitable methods. That. So I have provided with you, I can send it again, but last year, it was last year, beginning of last year, when we first developed the overall criteria involving multiple steps, it's not just the IQ test, and so those are what we're using.
Should that be defined in here? Because other terms are defined in here. That wouldn't be your job to do that. I mean, I know this came from Shipman. I'm just wondering why it's not.
Yeah, I don't know, because we took it verbatim from
Yeah.
Shipman. I don't know. And it could be because different districts, there's an array of ways to identify, correct?
Yes, and some are non-negotiables, you know, like if you look at the guidelines for talented and gifted, that's exactly where this came from, and the, what's it called, not policy, the steps, the procedures, thank you. Those really came right from here as well, so yes, it needs to involve multiple things, there needs to be an IQ measure, so it really is right out of the guidelines. I'm wondering, you know, maybe if where it says use equitable methods, would it be appropriate to say something like, as defined by district procedures, or I don't know, something like that. But I can give that to you guys again if you want to take another look at it, since it's been a while. In case people don't know what it is, you can reshare it. Up to you.
Yeah, I mean, I just wondered, I wondered why it's not listed as one of the defined terms since it's part of the
So it might be because if you go through like the next page, the evaluation and identification, it really kind of spells out what we're doing. So it might not have the exact numbers because that goes, each district might look a little bit different, but the pieces are all the same and the pieces are all written in here. I shouldn't have delivered, if that makes any sense.
Well, it kind of does, right? We're looking at page 2, correct? The
Yes,
board requires the use of multiple methods. and
Yes.
It does say a group assessment. and
Correct.
So it gives you the broad term. It just doesn't give you the brand name of the test or the,
it should not.
correct, you know, I mean,
Right. So what do you, I mean, so if you guys are saying the equitable methods or equitable methods are the things that are written in here, would it make sense to say like the Board of Education will use equitable methods as defined within this policy or as expressed within this policy so that it's clear what that means? I mean, am I understanding that correctly? That the methods that we use are all specified in here? I
Yes.
don't mean like the type.
Yes, yeah, exactly
The
what we
method
have
is
to
not
do this,
that.
yes. So that is, because again, this came right from the guidelines. So when we were developing our guidelines for identification, we had to follow this feedback.
Oh, yeah, so.
I don't have a problem with that. Did you want to add that? Or is that something that needs to go back to policy then? Or,
So we could handle it one of two ways. We have to move on this and then the motion could be amended to add that into it, into the policy and then that way. Or we could send it back to policy.
because as it is now.
Correct.
And then discuss it again in policy to make any changes.
Does it have to go back to the board attorney for approval if we make a change to it?
I don't think that type of a change. We're not really changing the spirit of the policy. It's just further clarifying.
For that change. If we were striking something or making a substantive change, I would say yes, but not for adding something that just clarifies it.
Okay, any other questions on that policy? Course proposals, mythology, superheroes and anti-heroes and horror.
So all 3 of us came to school. Aaron Sullivan was here at this last SIP meeting to present all 3 elected. Questions about any of them or any of the information that she shared at SIP?
I'd like to just say, I think it'd be easy to look at these titles and say, you know, are they serious? But if you read the descriptions, and especially if you look being evaluative, but at the person who's presenting this, who's sort of endorsing these courses. I think you know it's going to be real. Let me read one paragraph. And this one's about the mythology course. Key concepts for this course are the role diction plays in establishing style, the differences among figurative language, denotation and connotation, the importance of point of view in context, the interplay between subtext and central themes, contextual vocabulary, and the depth of a text as created through the building and interacting of themes and ideas. These are real courses.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
I'm
They're very
happy-
serious.
Yeah, and I'm happy that we're adding something with that degree of rigor into the.
I think it bears repeating something that Erin had shared with us at school improvement, that the English department surveyed the students and asked for, topics that they really would be interested in seeing electives available for. So that's how they came up with something.
Questions? Field trips, Washington DC.
So this is the annual DC trip. Kristen Toomey is here from the middle school. She's been sitting here since 6 o'clock waiting to answer any questions. It's the same trip that's been going year after year.
This is for 24.
No, this is for this year, yes.
So part of the confusion. So we approved this field trip at a special meeting in August. So
We
that's why I
approved the
thought this
dates,
was the
we approved the
24
dates in
trip.
August. We didn't approve.
So you approved the dates, but did you actually have approved the whole thing?
No, which,
No, just
it didn't come to us, which it just seems kind of late that we're getting it now. But I, is it, but I
So do you want me to
did-
jump in? I was just like, there was transitions with who was leading the trip that were beyond anyone's control.
Yeah.
So I stepped in October and therefore, just saying, hey, it's a fabulous opportunity. I'm happy to lead the kids.
Yeah.
Got the ball rolling, fundraising and getting them signed up. And so therefore the original person came back and that's when we were like, oh, this
Gotcha.
part wasn't finalized.
Yeah.
And I'm here to let you know that we have lots of kids signed up and we're very excited to go. But we need your approval.
I do have a question, not on that part of it. And I guess next year we'll get it sooner so we could discuss it, but we've discussed in the past that World Strides provides 10 free spots or complimentary spots for chaperones. And they always go to the teachers, and this is nothing against the teaching staff and getting these, but we have a lot of students in the district that aren't able to attend the trip. And we've talked about this before because of financial reasons. And maybe it's time that we start looking at where that money gets allocated or how it gets allocated, the complimentary.
I don't know that we have flexibility. Do you know that, Kristen?
We don't. It's what they do is for every 10 students that sign up, they get a chaperone spot because basically a lot of those places require that there is one adult for every 10 students.
So then what about the parent chaperones getting the complimentary? If they're paying for a student to come, maybe they should be looked at and considered for the complimentary spot on the trip. So they're not paying $2,000
Right.
to go. I mean, it's something I think we need to talk about in the future. This is already kind of a done deal, but going forward, I think we need to look at, even the same with the Costa Rica trip, things like that. I don't know if they're getting the same kind of discounts, but I think we need to start looking at where that is being distributed.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's always been a concern. Always had that concern
Right, it
about
has.
equity and
Right.
and access and.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a great.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the DC trip? Nope.
Right, so this is the Museum of Modern Art and Mr. Legere is here. He's also been here for the whole meeting. Thank you.
Downstairs, correct. Great.
Thank you. So if you want to just
share a little bit about the reason for the trip and the importance of it and the excitement
Sure.
behind it?
We go every couple of years, although it's, since the pandemic, we haven't been down. So this is our first trip in about 5-6 years. We try to go to either the Museum of Modern Art, which is what we're applying for here, or the Metropolitan Museum of Modern Art. We're very lucky to be 2.5 hours away from the world premier Museum of Modern Art. It has the original, that's the reproduction behind you of Salvador Dali Persistence of Memory, otherwise known as Melting Clocks. It has a room full of Monet paintings, bigger than the reproduction over here. It has a room full of Picasso paintings that are, again, world-class pictures that everybody's aware of. It has Van Gogh's Starry, Starry Night. Kids come away from this trip in awe. You know, they say, oh, I see these little pictures in the book and on the screen, and they don't realize what they're looking at. Sometimes it's massive. The painting behind you is no bigger than this, and they don't, until you get, only one person at a time can see it. It's really quite small. And it's amazing how they're in awe walking away from seeing these actual paintings. So that's why I want to bring 50 of these kids down, check it out. Questions?
Thank you for providing the kids the opportunity.
How many students? I don't see a number.
We have 50 lined up as of today. You only have space for 50 on the bus. 5 chaperones. If, you know, like she was saying earlier, the museum likes to have 1 chaperone.
Other questions?
It's paid for, I believe, maybe recognize this, but she was able to get us grant money on this for the first time, alliance money.
So it's the
That's her? Okay.
learning recovery.
So
Even better.
That's great.
in years past, it cost kids about $85 to go on a trip.
Wow,
It's now costing about 12.
that's great.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
very much.
Thanks,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Leger. Thanks for being here.
Any other questions?
That's it. Thank you so much.
Okay, I would like to take a moment. You might not be aware of this, but I'm retiring after 23 years. Wonderful years here in Torrington.
wow.
Of my 29 years teaching in Connecticut. It's been a fantastic ride. Thank you for everything.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
You're truly blessed.
Yes. Costa Rica.
Costa Rica, so we have 2 folks online, I believe. Angela Narige, are you still there?
So I think it's just me, Robin.
Oh, okay. Hi, Robin.
Hi.
So Robin Versus and Angela Narige have submitted this proposal. Do you want to just speak to it a little bit, Rob?
Sure. So we are hoping to head over to Central America, to Costa Rica. And we have 30 students who have already expressed their interest in going. And it's a biodiversity trip. We have 1 chaperone for every 6 students. And I did this same trip as well as Angel. I did it with a trip with a group of students out of Texas. Before COVID, it was really one of the best experiences of my life, which is why we want to do it again. And Angel had the same experience. And, you know, we're really just looking forward to going over there. The people and the culture and the nature is just incredible. Something that we can't really duplicate here.
Questions? Is there any concern by the cost of the trip, the $31.49, that it would exclude a lot of the students?
Well, we do try to do some fundraising to offset some of that cost. And some of the kids are doing a lot of fundraising on their own as well. So there's definitely a lot of interest, as you know, not only on this trip and that, as you know, the trip to Europe.
Any other questions?
I see that it says grant funding. Have any grants been applied for already?
Not that I'm aware of.
It's possible grant funding. TBD, right?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if we'd applied for anything yet. It was just a, maybe we have got it.
All right, any other questions? Wall Street experience.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
She was on the next one too. Wall Street experience. I still remember my 10th grade. picture of Wall Street. It was
Amy
fabulous.
Ferrer, are you online?
Hi there, yes, I am.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Amy.
Yeah, sure.
Amy actually submitted this proposal to take a group of her students to Wall Street for an amazing experience. Do you want to just share a little bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. So all the students that have signed up for this trip have been either a part of my intro to investments class or my intro to business class. Both of those classes, the students are engaged in in participating in the Connecticut stock market program. And so we spend lots of time talking about Wall Street, about the ins and outs of, the day-to-day occurrences of business transactions, stock prices, indexes. In my upper level intro to investments class, we dig deep into business cycles, economic fluctuation. We've seen lots of movies that have, where the kids have seen what it looks like on video to see the Wall Street, New York Stock Exchange and the bull and all these other great things. So this is an opportunity for these kids to, add value to what we've learned in class, to what they can see and envision. It's a walking tour. It's a walking tour through Lower Manhattan in the financial district, and it's given by men and women who have worked in the financial industry, who have seen the ups and downs of the stock market and the recessions. And I just am so super excited to take these kids, if you'll allow me.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you for giving that experience. It'll be great for a lot of these kids. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you, Amy.
Any questions for me?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much.
Old Sturbridge Village.
So Jared Shake submitted this proposal. He was unable to be here this evening, but he did send me some information on the trip that may not really be fully explained in the paperwork. He said the ultimate goal of this trip is to provide the authentic experience of seeing the quote guts of a structure that is quite similar to the one they're constructing in class. Every year, the construction class curriculum tackles a multitude of CTE building construction standards by having the students actively plan, lay out, cut, carve, and eventually erect a 12 by 16-foot timber frame shed. The same type of construction is mirrored in most every structure on the historical campus of Sturbridge Village. He says taking the students walking through the structures at Old Sturbridge Village, the students will be better equipped to safely and efficiently prepare their build site here at THS and construct their frame. The kids will also have the opportunity to interact with staff members at Sturbridge who have insight into material preparation as well as the engineering that's required to raise a timber frame.
Questions? Another great experience. We show all of our board meetings are positive things. All right. Thank you. All right, THS softball field.
So in the packet, you have the quotes from Justice Landscaping as requested at the facilities meeting to provide some repairs to make once the practice field, now the playable field for the next couple of years until new fields are constructed during construction.
For clarification. So is the total cost the 9990?
There's two separate prices in there. At further request of the facilities committee to. should be two.
There are, both pages are in there.
One's
They're
on the
on the
back
One's
page.
on the back.
Um,
It's 56 and 57.
Sorry.
Questions?
Hey, Fiona, it's Gary. Is Glenn in the, is Glenn there?
Gary,
I can barely hear. Is Glenn there? Glenn Berger?
Glenn is asking a question, then I'll come to you after Glenn.
Yeah, no, that's what I didn't know if he was there. I wanted to make sure he was. I know what his question is, so. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Glenn. I couldn't tell.
Go ahead, Glenn.
You can't help us.
You're up.
I know we talked about it at the meeting at facilities. I had ran into the AD and the softball coach and mentioned, hey, this is what we're planning on doing. And we were both like, well, it seems a bit excessive for a field that's gonna be temporary. They would be happy just getting that field as is, playable as is, instead of for this kind of money. I'm also, I got a copy of his contract, and he is kind of obligated to prepare a field for the spring under his current contract. And really what I'm wondering, I don't know if we really want to go down this road and spend this kind of money to, do the softball fields for temporary, or if we can just fix it up as is and, maybe spend at least half of that, giving it less than half of that, just giving it a fence and someplace that can make it look like a field. I mean, it's just $20,000 for dirt that's only going to be there for 2 years. I would like to look more into his contract. I think when we did this, when we did his contract for the outside work, I think we asked to have it itemized, but it's not itemized. And currently there are still schools in this contract that he doesn't have to do anything with, such as each school. So I don't know if we need, this is something else, maybe a different topic that we can bring up, maybe review this contract and amend it accordingly for his actual, because his scope of work is far beyond what we're doing now. I mean, what we have. The high school has been reduced, each school doesn't exist. So I'd really like to look into what he is obligated to do on that current field now. I guess it's ultimately up to you guys and up to you. I just, in passing, ran into the AD and the softball coach at the basketball game, and they're like, oh, that sounds great, but they would be okay without it. Just fixing that field up, because it really wasn't maintained. And I believe that should have been under his contract to begin with, maintaining that field.
It wasn't part of his contract to maintain the field?
No, the original contract did include the language that you currently see in the contract now, where there's the dragging of the fields.
But he still has to maintain a softball field.
Right, which was the practice field was not the field that he maintained. He maintained a field that was removed.
Okay, but in his contract, it still says a softball field, so he's still required to maintain a softball field. If there's only one left, then that would be the softball field, right?
So I think the
Could we
best
do
thing to
that,
do,
or?
I think the best thing to do in the essence of time is to send it back to facilities, and let's have a discussion at facilities about what you would like me to address in that. And obviously, there's been changes made to that contract because we did receive credits back for East School. Because East School has been sold as of the, as of the, was it third, about the 3rd of January, East School was sold, so
So there's amendments to this current thing already?
There's a credit that's coming back to us
From East School or from the,
for East School.
from Ed Advance?
No.
Or from the landscaper?
No, from the landscaper.
He's gonna
So
actually give us,
So what Ed Advance did was they paid us for, they reimbursed us for what was in that contract, both for snow plowing, for garbage disposal, that stuff. So we received credits back on a lot of these contracts.
I think what,
It's up to you guys, but I just wanted to point out that the
Hey.
AD folks would be,
so since budget.
I think,
Next week, would it be possible to look at this and see what we could do for 2 years, if it's just, you know, if there is another way to do it, and maybe in talking to the athletic director and the softball coach and actually looking. I'm sure you guys.
Well, I think that's the problem.
There's
Yeah,
a more cost-effective way to do it.
Gary's trying to
He's
talk.
trying to talk.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gary.
No, that's okay. I think it goes back to a couple of years ago when there were problems with the softball field that was there, and there was concern. So maybe, John, you felt the need to react to the clay issue and all the problems that they were having on the girls' field. But in my opinion, like with Glenn, now that I know what the team out there thinks, in my opinion, I think we should look, if they're happy with what we have out there and nobody's complaining, then I would say, I agree with Glenn, let's just let it go. You know, last week or 2 weeks ago, I wasn't aware of, I'm not even familiar with how those fields get maintained, but you know, they were a problem. The girls' fields were the real problem. And if they're happy with what they have up there now, let's not spend the money.
Well, it's been neglected, so it does need some work, but
Right.
I was all for just do it so they have a place to play, but after talking to, you know, the AD and a coach, they're like, well, that's kind of excessive. We play on worse fields in Waterbury. They would be happy with just fixing that one up, you know, cut out the infield, get rid of the grass that's grown in. That's what the quote's for.
Yeah.
This quote is for like laser grading and bringing in 90 yards of play.
So how,
You don't have to dig out soil, you just
So here's what I'm gonna suggest. I'm gonna ask the board if they'll be willing to authorize this to be worked out at budget and facilities next week with the cost to not exceed. So if we go to the meetings where it can be talked about in more detail. We certainly don't want to make sure we don't have any safety issues or anything like that. And then propose, but then it won't have to wait. We don't obviously want to delay these kids being able to play. So that way a decision could be made next week as long as the board authorizes.
they practiced on the field last year. He turned the dirt over last year and they practiced on the field, but after that once turnover, there wasn't much into dragging going at, because I guess that's not under his contract. But maintain it, doesn't grow in. You plan on it.
I think that's a good idea, but we need to understand that we're authorizing the budget committee to take a vote.
Yes.
Which we don't usually do.
Correct.
That's all I'm saying. We don't usually do that. So let the budget committee actually vote.
Well, they'll just be making the decision. So the board is voting to allow the expenditure up to this dollar amount, but between facilities and budget, they'll determine.
I wouldn't give it to you. Except for disaster.
But with that,
Well, facilities, actually.
Yeah.
It could just go to facilities
Right.
because the money.
Right.
You already determined where this money is coming from? How's this money?
Yes.
So we're proposing that we
Next week, right?
approve the $20,000, even though we know that it's really maybe not necessary.
Well, no, the board would be up to depending on the outcome at facilities. Because I'm not sure what else we can do unless we have a special board meeting after facilities.
Gotcha.
I think Glenn and the AD and maybe even John involved can drill down on what we really need from a safety standpoint, and it might be 3,000 for all we know. It might be nothing.
Right, I don't know. I'm just
Up to-
saying that's the only way to do it.
Correct. I'm agreeing with you, Fiona. I'm agreeing with you that, yeah, up to 20, but hopefully it's nothing or a couple $1,000.
So to clarify, we will vote for up to a certain amount. But the facilities committee will decide how they're going to, what they're gonna do,
Pending more information.
either accept price or determine lesser. Right, okay.
And obviously all board members are welcome. I just don't want to have anything delayed or create an unsafe condition while everyone's talking about this. So I think that would allow this to be resolved next week without having to then wait until the end of March. words. That's just my thought process. It doesn't mean they have to, it would be up to that amount, is what I'm proposing, but I'm open the floor to any other suggestions for how they handle this.
I like the suggestion if John thinks that the week isn't going to stop him from playing and missing games in the season. Or if we can do this next week and get you an answer, I would support that.
I mean, we're, come March, we're up against the wall anyways. I did speak to the AD the other day. He had said to me that if the field wasn't ready for the first couple of weeks of softball practice, that would be okay. We had the opportunity in February to get this done because we didn't have frost in the ground and the ground was hard, but that's not the case now. So bringing equipment out.
But, hey, John, why don't, Glenn, tell me if I'm wrong.
One at a time.
Decide what he is obligated to do no matter what, and get him started on that on a schedule. And if there's anything to be added, that would be our additional cost, which sounds to me like Glenn's thinking there's really almost nothing to be added, but at least schedule him to do what he's normally supposed to do. Right, Glenn?
Can't really hear him all the way. but-
Oh, you guys can't.
Gary, hold on. So on Exhibit A, to your point, Gary, it does say that Torrington High School's spring field maintenance, so turf field will be groomed using the TPS provider groomer by April 1st. The baseball and softball fields will be prepared game ready as soon as weather and ground conditions are suitable. So this is basically game ready, but he's asking for, we got a separate quote
That
for
was,
$20,000.
but that was written for the softball field we took out.
But there's still a softball field there, to Glenn's point, right? We took one out, but we still have, there's still one there.
This is how you end up in court over a contract this week, because now you're trying to scheme the guy in his mind for 20 grand.
Well,
trying to
yeah,
get
but
him to
what about the
maintain a field.
contract, but what it says, he has to maintain the field.
And it has been, and then we have allowed it to be destroyed and now expect him, in your mind, right, we expect him to spend a ton of money
I
to
don't
prepare a
agree with
field
that.
that's not prepared.
I don't
So
agree with that. Ed.
That's what you're asking.
He made, hold on,
Go ahead.
Ellen,
No.
keep order and raise our hands, or Gary, I have you on, Ellen.
So the softball field that was taken out was just redone to make it playable because it was in horrible condition for the girls to play.
The softball field that was taken out was your playable softball field.
Correct. And
And
the other one was just practice,
that was just a practice
but
field.
it wasn't,
It was not being made as a playable field. It was, all it was a practice field. All
Correct.
he did was came in and he turned it with a rototiller to break the weeds up on it. I don't even believe that there's actually, we know that there's not even base anchors inside that field. So there wasn't even bases on that field. So, I mean, per contract, if you wanted to come and turn the field, I'm sure you'd be happy to come and turn the field, but
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
so in his contract, it would turn the field.
That's not what it says, Ellen.
Wait, but the softball field that we had was a regulation softball field. It wasn't like a field that you just go and practice. So in his contract, that field that was a regulation field, he would line it and keep it up.
I
The
understand what you're saying.
practice field is like just a field in your backyard that you play on.
So then my next
So to
question
me,
would
it's two
be,
separate
my
things.
next question would be, then why isn't the building committee paying for the field to be fixed up to playable and ready to be played since they took it apart? Why do we have
That's
to
another
pay for it?
discussion.
Did we save the coin?
Hold on, Gary,
there's nothing
do
to say.
you have
And
a
that's another-
question, Gary?
No, I'm saying that's another discussion, but I just think the answer really is simple but twofold. You know, we're not going to do any. I think Glenn's saying no clay. We don't need clay, right, Glenn? Can you hear me?
Turn the field over last year, let's just turn it over again. If there's no
Right.
bases in there, that would be, obviously, that would be an addition outside his existing
That would-
contract.
That would be an extra,
Drop the field
and
and
any other grass cutting out or whatever would be possibly an extra. But get them scheduled, right, Glenn? To get started on the turning of the field, and you got a couple of days with the AD to look out there and say, well, maybe we need that, but maybe we don't. Let's decide in a matter of minutes or hours. what we need above and beyond what he thinks he owes us, which might be just turning the field, and have him give us a quote. And again, it's going to be less than $20,000.
So
And Glenn knows it better than I do.
Because under no circumstance can the board act on what we have in front of us with all of this. So are people
Right.
opposed to getting additional information, interpretation of the contract, and then authorizing facilities to make this decision? Let's be honest, the majority of the board goes to all the subcommittees and authorizing up to this amount of money with the decision to be made next week. So that,
Or you could just charge on and vote this through.
right, that's the,
That would be my.
that would be the two options.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to hold up the girls playing softball, but again, it just doesn't sit right with me at all.
Right, but I'm saying this would only be, and then I think it would be better if everyone was more comfortable about why we're doing it, what we're doing. It's just a little bit change in process. Jess?
What line item is this money coming out of? Like, if we were to reduce this cost, because, I mean, obviously, this would be the ideal, I would think, because you're gonna use that field for a couple of years, and we want it to be nice and safe and all of that. So if we do reduce the cost, where would that extra money go?
I'm pretty sure it was a grant that it was coming out of. I just can't remember which grant off the top of my head. We talked about this at budget last.
I think it was repair maintenance.
Repair, oh, that's,
Yeah,
We're gonna find them.
repair maintenance.
so that would have been it, GB. Generally, it wasn't a grant, it was, but we can check and then we can bring that.
Well, I'm just wondering,
Are you trying to decide tonight?
That's the only comment I had.
Okay, so is anyone opposed to handling this
Sorry.
in that fashion?
Prefer to vote on it.
My
See
only
where the
concern-
winds are blowing.
My only concern would be that the season is very close.
Right, I would agree with that. But again, I think, I don't mind putting it forward, maybe getting reimbursed by the building committee, letting them pay half of it. We could talk about that another time offline, but
So the, I mean, I
I
really
don't think
think
this
if
should be
you're
our-
involving the building committee, like, I think they would need to look at the quotes. They may want to.
so maybe down, like, get reimbursed from them down the road. Let's let the girls play softball, fix the field.
Just,
Scott said he'll find the money.
No,
So,
no,
I
that's
mean,
not,
this whole conversation is just crazy.
well, it would be coming out of building maintenance, which would mean that we wouldn't be able to do something else until
I
this
didn't
was worked
start
out.
it. I'm
I
joining
started.
part of the conversation, and it's not just starting something. It's a legitimate conversation.
But
I think we-
So I will ask the building
Hold
committee
on.
at the next meeting. I'm sorry, I
Hold
can't
on a
tell this
minute.
who.
Sorry, Gary, wait one
Yep.
minute. Glenn's talking.
Going to the building committee, again, when we talked about setting precedences earlier, keep in mind that the tennis courts have been wiped out as well. They have no place to play as of yet either. Set a bad precedence about, hey, do something for the girls softball, then somebody may be going barking up the tree for the building committee for tennis courts. Right now, they don't have any place to practice or play right now. That's really how this whole topic started. I was sitting in the gymnasium and they were talking about trying to, who do we know that has tennis courts? And we talked about Lake Ridge and Pine Ridge up there. And then I mentioned, oh, the softball field's gonna get fixed, and then that kind of snowballed from there. Well, I think we've got to be careful going to the building committee. I appreciate your opinion, Sue, but keep in mind that the tennis courts are also, just so you're aware. I don't know if anybody knew that the tennis courts were wiped out, but
Yeah, I thought we're looking at alternative options, so maybe we could bring tennis court, what were tennis options to at a future meeting.
Well, right, because if we had to rent the course somewhere, that would be equivalent expense to this expense, right? It's kind of like a cost.
I don't know what it would be.
I mean, I don't know.
I have no idea.
But like,
anything offsite, you're also gonna have additional transportation.
yeah, so maybe it would cost more, but same idea. You have to spend to keep the program going during the interim years.
That's it. I'll be quiet. Unless Gary.
So the two options are going to be to either move forward and approve this, or second option is to approve up to this amount being spent, and moving it back to facilities for further discussion, contract evaluation, So that's the two options we have tonight.
Just need a motion.
No, we'll get to it when we do the action, but so,
12-9.
so is there any further discussion? Gary, did you have a discussion?
No, I have no problem though. I've gone to Mario about this already. Especially the field, the trucks are out there, they're hauling material, just to raise the issue. The site contractor's there. What can he do to help us to fix what's out there, or ask the building committee to pick up the cost? I'm not afraid to ask. It's a fair question. I think the building committee at one time talked about Durand Street tennis courts being an option. I don't know if that ever went anywhere, because we don't have the authority to tell the school where to send the kids, but.
Going to the AD, the Durant Street doesn't really work out because there's only 2 courts. And they really wouldn't have enough daylight to run. Practices would be fine, but if they have matches or something like that, I think he's talking about running out of daylight because you have so many matches that have to happen.
Well, that's probably true, although we change the clocks next week, but.
Yeah, we'll talk more
It'll be
about
clo-
the facility, so.
Yeah.
Maybe it makes sense, maybe Mario could look at it too, and maybe there are some efficiencies that could be had with trucking or something. Not Mario, but some representative from the building committee can maybe meet with John and see what options there is. Yeah, okay, so we'll move tennis and softball field, and then when we get to the action item, we'll decide how we're gonna handle it. Okay, teacher residency program. That's you.
Yes. So at the budget subcommittee meeting, I had presented 3 options for the board to look at for pathways for growing our own staff. And I had asked the superintendent if we could just bring this forward for the board, because the deadline for this particular program, the teacher residency program, is March 13th for if we want our paras or subs or anybody that might be interested in this program to be able to apply. We do need the board to let me know if this is something that we want to consider. So I recognize that, there's more discussion to be had at the budget committee about the other programs and how much we want to contribute and those kinds of conversations. And we have a little more time on those other programs, but this program, we kind of need to know in order to decide if we're going to let them know that we're going to participate and be a participating district. So I just wanted the board.
I was still, what is the cost of the district for this program?
So per resident, it's $65,750 per resident, and we would have to have a minimum of 2 in our district.
And what's the cost to the district?
That's the cost of the district.
And
But isn't there, are there grants? Right, so what's
It's
the
the
bottom
Alex
line
grant.
cost to the district?
So there would be none, because that would come out of that grant.
Well,
So
okay,
the
so
grant that we have, if you'll recall, that Alliance Diversity Recruitment Grant was $308,000 is what we've received on that. So we can still consider those other 2 programs for the remainder of that, or we could take more residents. We can kind of decide more as the budget committee considers the rest of that. But if we want to take at least 2 residents and participate in the process and send out to our staff to be able to apply to be considered for residencies, we would need to know, to be able to let our staff know to be able to complete their applications by March 5th or March 9th.
I'm sorry.
I have a question.
So just quickly, I think you sort of alluded to it. Nothing about our vote, if we were to vote to sort of participate in this, nothing about that precludes us from participating in any other program.
Correct.
And my second question, I recall some discussion about some of these programs, but not all of it. But this is, you have confidence in this program's recruiting and the services it'll offer and so on.
I do, and if we participate in this year and we don't like how it goes, we can not participate in it the following year. So I think we can explore it with just 2 residents, see how that goes, see if we're satisfied with the program. I just didn't want to see us miss an opportunity for our staff to contribute if that's what the board wanted to do.
Sue and then John.
I just a couple questions. So this one, and I know we've talked about it quite a bit, and we talked about it last year, I recall. Two questions. One is, how will the candidates be selected? Who selects them, and what's the criteria for that based on interest in the district? And then my second question is, I've read through the statutes, and I don't know if it changed from the first time that we looked at it, but it was a minority-based program. But I didn't see anywhere in there where it said that you could have, anyone can apply in the district, whether you're white, colored, Asian, whatever it might be.
I think it's the recruitment method has to be geared towards recruiting diverse candidates, but any candidate has to legally be allowed to be considered. So it's really about the population that's targeting and all of those things, and looking at all those different factors like socioeconomics and those kinds of things. But anybody can apply, and the teacher residency program does have non-minority candidates this year.
It does, okay.
Yes.
And so how about, so what, as far as our district goes, who makes that decision on who gets selected?
So the selection process happens at the state level with the alliance, the Rest Alliance. They have a selection process. And
Okay.
so by letting them know that we want to participate, representatives from our district could be a part of that selection process.
So they would apply and then get selected. We
Correct.
don't select who gets.
We would have a voice in that by being part of that selection committee, but there's a large selection committee that happens at
Okay.
the state level.
So we would open it up to every teacher, everybody, every parent, everybody in the district.
Everybody in the
This is
district,
available.
anybody
If
that
you want
wants to
apply, you
apply.
apply.
And then
Okay.
we would work with them, with other districts that are participating in the selection process.
John, then Jeff.
Just to point out that the Rest Alliance is running this program, right?
Correct.
There's a brand name behind all this.
Yes.
We decide to enroll, we don't have to commit to a number of people today, right? It's just that we're going to participate.
We have to have a minimum of 2. And the reason why we could have more, but they have said that they really want districts that partner with them to have a minimum of 2, and they want those 2 residents to be in the same school so that they can support each other through the program. And that's really their guideline. So we would have to commit to a minimum of 2, but the board can certainly consider more.
So we have the ability to make a mix of the $383,000 that's in the grant
Yes.
for the other programs you're gonna propose. Okay.
Yes.
I have questions when it's my turn.
Next, Gary. Go ahead.
So this, I mean, this teachers wouldn't be applying for this because they already have certification. Unless you only had a secondary certification and you wanted an elementary certification, is that?
It really wouldn't be geared towards them either because there's other pathways for teachers
So
to get
it's not
cross endorsed.
just- so
So
you
this
would
is
be-
really for our classified staff.
The
This
rest
is our
of the staff,
paras, our substitutes, tutors, and like I said, I've actually had some really good conversations this week with one of our building substitutes who is really interested. And I presented the 3 options that I'm sharing with the board to consider. And also with one of our tutors who are both very interested in becoming teachers. So I think we definitely have staff in the district that are interested in programs that we can do to support them.
It's $69,000, but they're entering with their bachelor's degree.
Yeah, they have to have a bachelor's degree to be in the program. But that cost includes a salary that we pay to the resident. So the resident teacher works for us, so that.
That makes more
Yes,
sense.
yes.
I was like,
And it may not cost 68,000 because you can see in one of the slides, last year they did get grant funding that the Rest Alliance got. They just don't know how much that might be this year. So it might cost us less than $65,000, but at the most, it would be $65,000 per resident.
Okay, Gary, go ahead.
So, a couple, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Just a couple things. And again, I have a problem with the way this is worded. And I'm afraid it's going to bring out a lawsuit, but number one, I think we should have a legal opinion. I know the state is looking at this and they're making decisions, but at Torrington, there's a lot of people who work in our school system that might be interested in this of all colors. It mentions color. I don't know what color means. Under the census, North Africans are considered white. So how do we differentiate? Who differentiates? Who gets priority? And it clearly states what the objective is and who they're looking for. You know, if it didn't say to attract and retain teachers of color, I would agree that the Alliance District would look at this and say, well, because, you know, if you're Middle Eastern, you're not of color for our census. If you're North African, you're not of color. You can come from the Sudan and not be of color. And the same thing with marginalized, you know, communities. You know, we are our entire community is marginalized. I'd rather direct our own money to our own internal candidates that we know and that we have educated through the high school system. This smells a lawsuit, and I know people are going to say it's just me reacting, but you know, it completely dedicates this program to retaining teachers of color. We need more male teachers, and we need more male African American teachers, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean this is something we can go ahead with and give maybe our paras or some of our other people that have worked in the system the impression that because of their color, they may not have an equal choice. And there's nothing more concerning if we're trying to obtain equity that everybody have an equal choice or an equal opportunity for this program. It smells of just the opposite. And I think without a legal opinion, we can't make a decision, because as much as people don't think it matters, 2 major universities just got sued and lost because of programs like this. One in California and one in North Carolina, you know, both run by, political parties that are on the slight left, but we can't just jump into something without having a good legal opinion as to whether or not this is legal or not. Or that we're going to run into a problem with the other 65% of our staff that would love to be able to do this. I'm saying that are not of color. And again, nobody in the room today can define color. And that's the other problem I have. But, we need some clarity as to who's going to qualify for this and who can apply and have the same opportunity for outcome. And I don't see that anywhere in this program that's offered or being considered. I'm not trying to cold water Kim. You work very hard. I know you work really, really hard. I just don't think this program offers us enough clarity right now. And I would hate to see a para come to us after another para is chosen because they might be Ecuadorian and this other para is from Vietnam, let's say, and feels they didn't have the same opportunity and decides to file a lawsuit, which they're happening everywhere in this country. It's happening everywhere. So my opinion would be get a legal opinion first, and to protect us as a board, and then be as fair as we can, determining who gets these funds. That's all I have to say.
Before we go to further questions, I need a motion to extend the meeting to 9:15. And I would also like to move the board goals to the next meeting because those aren't applicable to July 1. And move all the committee reports to get sent to Marissa, and Marissa get forwarded out to everyone. That's on the table. So moved. All those in favor? Just go ahead.
My question is,
You have to call for opposed.
Oh, I'm sorry, opposed.
Sue and Jim.
Stop talking, you two. You don't want to extend the meeting, just kidding. Jess, go ahead.
You too? Yes. So my question is relative to what actually goes on in the classroom. With this teacher resident, this person, are they the primary adult in the classroom? Or are they basically like a student teacher who's working in tandem with a certified teacher for the entire year?
They're not a student teacher, but they are not alone in a classroom. They are working with a mentor teacher, and part of that cost is that those mentor teachers get trained over the summer and they work with that teacher throughout the year. So they're kind of like in between a student teacher.
So yeah, 'cause I saw that on the $6,000, but I wasn't sure what the scope of that. So that means they're getting paid to work with that person, but they're with them.
Correct. Yes, they are not going to be alone in the classroom.
So this does not do anything to fill like vacancies.
No.
This is future staff development.
Correct.
Any other questions? Jeff, go ahead.
So if somebody enrolls in this program and they are accepted, that creates a vacancy, correct?
Yes. Correct, of para, sub, whatever.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you guys. Moving right along. Entertain a motion to approve the MOA with the TEA.
I'll second.
Discussion? My discussion would just be if we wanted to make the change we discussed to that MOA, or if you wanted it as is.
The first one. In your change, the change. What was your-
I can amend my motion to this, I remember what you're asking.
Right, no, I'm just putting it out, so we would have to move on this motion, and if someone wanted to make a counter motion.
I can't remember what you specifically recommended. Somebody reviewed the verbiage,
Not numerical.
the MOU,
I understand this. You know, what, I'm gonna withdraw my motion.
the.
Someone else do it.
Remember what the.
Well, that's what
Right.
I don't know what you're
I don't
asking.
remember what the
So let's make it a
verbiage
gen-
was.
Should I get a generic?
Was it making it generic? Was it making it generic?
Okay, I'm just gonna move, again,
Yeah.
I'm gonna move adoption as presented.
It's difficult because
Right.
you can't say it publicly before there's an opportunity
Right.
to talk to them. So the motion could be with discussed change.
I have to wish on this.
I'll move it because we did have the discussion in executive session. Not the verbiage. So I will move to accept the MOU with the discussed changes.
Second that motion.
No?
Looking for another motion then.
Great,
Oh my
I move
God.
adoption,
You move.
adoption of the MOU, TEA, as presented.
Anyone want to second that motion?
I'll go back to seconding
Seconding Ed's?
seconding it.
Okay. Any discussion on Ed's? All those in favor? Opposed? Favor, sorry. Glenn,
I would abstain.
And Jess abstained,
Glenn, or Gary's abstaining.
and Gary abstained.
Entertain a motion to approve the MOA with local 1579. Discussion? All those in favor?
Glenn and Ed,
Gary, you're.
Abstain.
Thank you.
Yeah, I abstain. I wasn't there.
Entertain a motion to receive the superintendent's proposed budget for 23-24 and turn it over to the budget committee.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Reminder.
Entertain a motion to approve the monthly financials.
So,
All those in favor?
Aye.
what was it, Ed?
Cool.
Glenn, thank you.
Entertain a motion to approve policy number 6030 and policy 6031 in a bundle.
So
Discussion?
I'd like to see if we could break them apart, and I would like to add that related descriptor to that one on equity. The Board of Education will use equitable measures as described in this policy to identify students.
Do you want to withdraw your motion? Put this
I couldn't hear that. I'm sorry. I couldn't hear the motion. Did Jess make a motion?
No, so Ellen, the motion was made to approve the policies as presented by the policy committee. For discussion, Jess is requesting that we amend it Do you want to say louder exactly the wording?
Yeah, just the first sentence of the equitable identification policy, because it doesn't, it uses the word equitable, but it doesn't define it. To add the words, so it would say the Torrington Board of Education, we use equitable measures as described in this policy, methods as described in this policy, because the contents of the policy is the equitable methods, it just doesn't specify that. So it's for clarity.
I agree with Jess. I agree with Jess on that.
So this motion, the first motion has to be voted on, and then if that doesn't pass, then you can do it.
Sorry.
Or just could move to amend, gee, is that parliamentary right to move to amend the policy because it's incorporated? As much as I don't want that, you have that right. Because the motion is on the table, you can amend the motion that is on the table. She said it's a second.
Okay, so do you want to do it that way then?
Yeah, I would move to amend the motion to include the description, the descriptive phrase as described in this policy to the first sentence of policy 60.
Does anyone want to second that motion?
Second.
Okay. Any more discussion? Sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ed, are you in favor?
No.
Opposed?
Yeah, I'll be letting know.
Okay. Glenn, sorry, Gary, were you in favor or opposed?
I was in favor of.
Okay, okay, motion carries.
So now we have to.
Can I make a motion that never to excuse, think Gary's line again?
I couldn't hear that, but I'm sure it was very funny, Glenn.
Sometimes it's like 30 seconds. Entertain a motion to approve the new courses in a bundle.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
John and Sue. Did we vote on the policy?
Aye.
We only voted on the amendment. So unless that one that I just missed was vote on adoption.
Right, we only voted on the amendment. Now we need to vote on the
Oh,
two
I thought we were
policies.
voting on the policies, accepting the policies with the
No,
amendment.
we voted on the amendment. So now we have to
Vote on the policies, including the.
Okay, so entertain a motion to vote on policy 6030 and 6031 with the amendment.
You just hold it.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Entertain a motion to approve. Guys, we're gonna have to extend again, so let's go.
Yep.
Entertain a motion to approve the new courses in a bundle.
So moved again.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Entertain a motion to approve the field trips in a bundle.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Entertain a motion to approve the teacher residency program.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No, opposed.
Motion carries.
Wait, so
I'm opposed.
Gary, Sue, and Glenn are opposed.
Entertain a motion to move the Torrington High School softball field to the facility committee meeting next week, authorizing an expenditure up to the amounts presented in the bids tonight after they've had further discussion. Second.
I'll second it.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Are you in favor or opposed?
I'm in favor. I'm in favor, only because it's the girls softball field.
You're in favor. You're in favor of moving into facilities?
I'm in favor of moving to facilities. I'm not comfortable with the amount.
The motion carries.
And opposed.
So we're removing the board goals. Entertain a motion to approve the Board of Education regular meeting minutes in a bundle and the committee meeting minutes to receive them at one time. All those in favor?
Aye.
To abstain, because I wasn't here for the bundle of that 18.
Entertain a motion to receive the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Items for upcoming agenda. We'll have monthly financials, budget, board goals. Think that will keep us busy. Comments for the good of the order. John, we'll start with you.
One of the things that, John down there.
You not here?
Yeah, sorry.
Thanks.
Laura.
Thank you.
Kim.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for the budget process. I want to thank my whole team and Scott for surviving this first.
Minutes to approve a special meeting at CAFTA, and I would just like to remind us that CAFTA is very generous with the use of their facilities ongoing. Next week, this year.
Just acknowledge that we have quite a few retirees in the consent agenda, and I'm sure we'll talk about
Looking forward to the sixth reading presentation, very excited about that, and the budget. Thank you all for your efforts, your whole staff, everybody, because I'm sure it's grueling. Go ahead.
Thank you for all your efforts, central office. I have to say the binder looks thicker now than it did when I was on the other side of the table. But I look forward to it. Thank you.
Marissa.
The St. Jude's telethon is Sunday, so tune in to listen to some kids from nursing.
Oh, yay, well, we're listening.
Gary.
Well set.
Donna and Joanne, since you made it the whole meeting.
They should get a standing ovation.
Okay, the superintendent search committee is looking for feedback. There is a survey on our Facebook page. It's been sent out, so we'd encourage people to take it so we can get a feel for what you're looking for in our next superintendent. I also saw on Facebook that Friendly Hands Food Bank is running like a teenage financial literacy. Thing. Really interesting. So I'm hoping that we can get that on the website so some of our kids can take advantage of it, which is really great. Yeah. All right, future meetings. March is always tricky. More meetings will probably be scheduled because of budget, but this is what we have on the calendar for now. Motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
9/11, John and I.
9/11.